Yo, my name is James Cool. I'm the owner of PayDirtDFS.com, and this is a Saturday two-gamer breakdown with multiple ends. I mostly am doing this because I really don't want to write about this slate. It's so funny as we end up getting farther and farther into the end of the NFL season. My desire to write content just completely fucking deteriorates. By the time that we get to the Super Bowl, I'm just so fucking shot when it comes to any kind of written content. I can still do streams. Hold on. I can still do streams, and I can still like talk through DFS and prop betting and sports betting and all that kind of shit. But when it comes to actually writing content for Wildcard Weekend, there's no way I'm gonna write an article for a 2-gamer and a 3-gamer and a 6-gamer and a showdown for every single. Like that's people are just trying way too hard. And I answered a question in the Discord of like, oh, are you gonna be putting out streams for everything? And it's like, no. And somebody said, well, we're just going to have to trust the sheets for the 6-gamer. And it's like, yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly what you should do. The reason why I put together all this content to try to use the sheets to do certain things, sheets over PayDirt, is so that people have an idea of how to use them when I can't stream, right? Or when I don't have capacity, or when I don't have time, or any of those kind of things. Like, I do these streams not only to put out information and answer questions and to hang out and stream and do all that kind of shit, but also because I want people to learn how to use the models themselves and how to, be self-sufficient with this kind of stuff. Because I don't want to just hand bread out to people. I want to teach them how to bake, right? So, yeah, I just, but by the time we get to Wildcard Weekend, man, I can't be bothered to write. I just can't. I'll probably do. Sorry. Also a little sick. I'll probably write a showdown season for tonight and tomorrow night, and probably Monday, but I'm probably not going to end up doing too much more than that. LFG, absolutely. I assume that you are Hemi in the Discord. What's up? How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Written content is kind of dead, honestly. Don't blame you. I mean, look, I really like written content. I really do like written content. I like putting things together. I like writing down thoughts. But I like longer form, kind of more theoretical stuff now. The point that I have gotten to now is where I really want to just write more life-oriented stuff, more decision-making content, more decision theory stuff. I find that a lot more interesting and a lot more stimulating to write. And I think that it helps not only in this industry, but also, people in regular everyday life. So I care a lot more about doing that kind of writing than writing about DFS content, and specifically slate-specific content. I should write a lot of content about evergreen stuff, like how to do this, how to play this specific sport, how to play this specific type of contest. We did a lot of that stuff for Theory DFS, which obviously you can find over at theorydfs.com. But that is not written. That's an audiobook form, right? I should write a whole course on that kind of stuff, on how to play different kind of things. But as far as slate-specific content, it's just, it has a short shelf life, and I don't find a lot of joy in it. The sweatshirt is James' first step towards an OnlyFans DFS account. I think that would be unironically awesome. Like an OnlyFans account that is based on DFS and sports betting, I think would be unironically fantastic. I think people would pay for it. I think it would be like a completely different audience than, well, probably not a completely different audience than the degens that I find on Twitter. But I think it would be an expanded audience. I think it would be interesting. I think an OnlyFans with DFS and sports betting content would actually be awesome. I swear I'm going to get to the content here in a sec. Still learning tools, to be honest, but your showdown seasons are legit. I took down the menu with that Tim Patch call. Paying for the PayDirt subscription is definitely worth it. Abso-fucking-lutely it is. If you don't have a PayDirt subscription and you are watching the stream, I think that you should go try one. I think that you should just, at the very least, go try a PayDirt subscription. You can get a daily subscription as well, which like if you just go to subscribe, go to members, go to subscribe, go down $5 for one day. You can just try it, or $20 for 1 week. You can just try it out. You can try it out today. You get access to every single model if you pay $5. So I think that you should try that. But that being said, we should probably get to the actual content for this 2-gamer. So there are 3 different slates here. There's the 2-gamer today, there's the 6-gamer, and then there is the 3-gamer tomorrow. So people surprisingly had interest in the 6-gamer. In years past, the Wildcard Weekend, people do not have interest in the 6-gamer. So initially, I didn't even project it, but now you can find the 6-gamer loaded into the main slate. Secondary slate is going to be today with the 2-gamer. So I think that what we're going to end up seeing today is people obviously are going to be focused a lot on Baltimore. I think people are also going to be focused on the Chargers. There's going to be considerably less ownership on Pittsburgh and Houston stacks. And again, please forgive me having to pause for 30 seconds every now and then so that I can cough. It's kind of a hard 2-gamer. I don't think that it's like impossible by any means, but just like from a high level for this 2-gamer, people are going to be very focused on Baltimore. People I think are going to also be focused on Charger stacks. I think that Pittsburgh stacks will come in higher owned than projections have them for sure. Mostly because I hear chatter from smart people understanding that they are going to be way too low owned. So they are going to get steamed up a bit. I don't think they're going to get steamed up a whole lot. Like currently, what do we have? What do I have? Which fucking view should I do for this? Should I do this one? I guess we do this one. Currently, I have Russell Wilson projected for like 1% ownership. He'll come in higher than that. Oh, that's for the main site. For secondary, I have Russell Wilson projected at like 5% ownership. I think he comes in higher than that. I think Russell Wilson probably comes in somewhere around 10%, something like that. CJ Stroud probably cuts the difference. I do think Lamar Jackson is probably going to come in somewhere around the 35% own range. I think that him and Justin Herbert will probably be relatively close in ownership. I think when you look at the median difference between them, it kind of paints this picture of like, oh yeah, we should definitely be looking to utilize Lamar Jackson over Justin Herbert. But I don't even think that Lamar Jackson versus Justin Herbert is the question that you should be asking yourself. I think moreover, you should be asking yourself like the difference between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. So like if we look at the overall range of outcomes for secondary slate, the question is way more along the lines of, do I want to play Lamar Jackson and Baltimore stacks, or do I want to play Derrick Henry and Justin Herbert stacks? That's the question that I think that you're really asking yourself. So there's 2 different ways to build between those 2 things. If you use Lamar Jackson, then very likely you are not going to be using Derrick Henry on this slate. They are negatively correlated quite a bit. Granted, they have both had games where they are both ending up being in winning lineups. Like that's going to happen. It doesn't mean they're not negatively correlated. So the way that I look at it is if you're going to be using Lamar Jackson stacks, then you are excluding Derrick Henry from those kinds of lineups. And then that leaves you with a running back pool of Joe Mixon, J.K. Dobbins, and, probably Jalen Warren or Najee Harris, right? Like those are the 4 running backs you can really use on this slate. So when you put it in that frame of reference, then what you're trying to say is, are Lamar Jackson stacks that much better than Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, and CJ Stroud stacks in relation to how much better is Derrick Henry than Joe Mixon, J.K. Dobbins, Jalen Warren, stuff like that. And I think that when you put it in that frame of reference, Derrick Henry is a much better play, in my opinion. The difference between Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert upside stacks, right? I think when we look at ceilings for these guys, obviously Lamar Jackson is going to have the highest ceiling of any quarterback on the slate, but it's dependent on his rushing outcomes. And something that Gordy pointed out in the Discord is that the most fantasy points that Lamar Jackson has ever scored against the Steelers defense is 20.5, which was recently. They're a defense that's kind of built to stop rushing quarterbacks. They are kind of a bend, don't break offense that makes sure that quarterbacks are not rushing against them. So they're built to limit the upside of Lamar Jackson. That being said, Derrick Henry obviously changes that dynamic, and I don't want to get barred down into what happened with Lamar Jackson versus the Steelers 3 years ago or whatever. But it is a worthwhile point. And I think that if you consider that Lamar Jackson has likely a neutered ceiling here, and we're looking at the quarterbacks all having a ceiling of somewhere between 30 and 35 fantasy points, which I think is realistic for all of the quarterbacks on this slate. No running back outside of Joe Mixon on this slate has the same upside as Derrick Henry. So I think that it treats you better in terms of upside, like realistic upside, standard deviation upside, of taking Derrick Henry rather than Lamar Jackson. Now, that's what I would do if I had one lineup, right? With one lineup, I probably am siding on the Derrick Henry side. In a portfolio, I think the rule that you just make is saying any lineup that has Lamar Jackson can't have Derrick Henry and move along. That's a really easy rule to set in optimizers, and being able to say these two are heavily negatively correlated. These two are heavily negatively correlated. I don't want them in lineups together, but whatever lineups come out with them separated, I think we're fine. That being said, that's kind of the overall, that's the most important decision that I think you make on the slate is Lamar Jackson versus Derrick Henry. After you have made that decision, then you have a whole bunch of little micro decisions that you make based on stacks. Answer a question. I think the interest is because people are just sick of NBA this year and want to play DFS a lot more on CFB and NFL before it's going to take a break. Yeah, I mean, NBA DFS fucking sucks, right? I mean, it doesn't suck. It's the edge in NBA DFS is really, really high in consideration of everything that we have right now. I think the edge in NBA DFS for those that are willing to exploit it is really, really high. In fact, I think that it's likely higher than it has ever been. But I don't want to fucking deal with it. Like I think most people do not want to deal with it right now. So for the most part, like people are looking to NFL. I think people are looking to NHL hockey. I think that people are looking to sports betting a lot. Like people would rather be putting down their action for NBA in terms of prop markets and bets. But I just don't think that people in the modern day of DFS are willing to exactly right. Like I don't want to live at my computer for 5 hours tonight. And you don't have to. There's so many options now in terms of pick'em and sports betting and stuff like that are just way less friction in terms of getting your action down and way less dedication throughout the night. I personally don't want to fucking deal with it, but there are people who do want to deal with it and do a very good job dealing with it. So I think that is, I don't think that there is less interest in NBA. I think that it is interest in NBA in different ways. Like for me, and with my Tails Marketplace stuff, which you can get over at the Tails Marketplace with OddShopper, you can find the pay dirt group there. I get all my action in at like 10 a.m. and then I'm done for the day. So if there are any props that pop up later on in the day, we have late scratches or whatever, like I'll hit those as well. But pretty much all of my NBA is done at 10 a.m. and then I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the night. So the only thing that I worry about is hedging if I have some things that I need to hedge. So it's just a more efficient way to deal with NBA. I don't think there's less interest in NBA. I just think that it's different interest. So let's jump in really quick to some stack stuff. So I loaded up Stack Finder, which I don't think is like the most useful tool for pay dirt, but I think for two gamers, and specifically for two gamers like this, I think it's interesting. So let's load up the secondary slate here, and let's just run all the QB plus twos here, right? And so when we run the stack analysis here, the top overall projected is Houston or Baltimore, but then you actually end up with Houston. You end up with Stroud, Schultz, and Collins as the next best stack that you can have for QB plus twos. And then you have another Baltimore, and then another Houston, and then you have Pittsburgh. Notice that the Chargers are not here. And the Chargers are not here because they project just about the same as Houston stacks, but for much more ownership. The Charger stacks are likely just going to be overowned. The stacks that you should likely be focusing on for this two-gamer in relation to ownership and projection are going to be Baltimore, Houston, and Pittsburgh stacks. So again, from a single entry standpoint, where do we stand now? We know that we want to side with the Derrick Henry side, right, instead of Baltimore stacks. So then that leaves us with Houston or Pittsburgh stacks to pair him with. Now, clearly, there's a way where we can then also build in some secondary correlations here, right? If what we want to do, we can come over here and we can use the quick builder. And if what we want to do is say, here's secondary slate, let's go with Derrick Henry, right? And we know that we want to do either Pittsburgh or Houston stacks. So if we think that Derrick Henry has a really good game, then that means that we likely should expect Pittsburgh to be wanting to pass from behind. So then we go with a Pittsburgh stack. We can go with George Pickens, and then we can also go with Pat Freiermuth, right? And if you haven't used the quick builder, it'll suggest some things to you based on some general heuristics, right? And then we can say here is a nice little start to our lineups. Total ownership 76%. Total LevX is 1.43. We know that we have positive leverage on this lineup. And then what we can do is we can just kind of fill in some blanks, right? Like we know that Joe Mixon is the next best option. We probably want to make the assumption that if Charger stacks are not good, but if we think that Charger stacks are going to win, we can go with Los Angeles Chargers here. And then we can kind of say, all right, what else do we want to add into this? If we think that Derrick Henry is good, we know that Zay Flowers is out. Maybe we want to go with Rashad Bateman, who we think is underowned for this slate or underpriced for this slate. So now we have a nice base for a lineup. We could even go, if we think that Joe Mixon is good play, we go with the Texans instead. And now we have, this is spending $39,100. We have about 11,000 left. We have positive total leverage. Our total ownership isn't that bad. Median isn't that bad. Then we can just fill in the rest, right? Let's see. We could probably go. Can we go Nico Collins here? Then we have 3,100 for a player here. Who's 3,100 that we can use in the flex here? Let's sort this by 4x. So we probably can't use Nico Collins here. Maybe we can go with Vlad McConkey. Play that up against Joe Mixon. So now we have $4,100 remaining. And 4,100 could get us Dalton Schultz. Oops. There we go. $500 left over. Total FX is positive. Median is 112. That's totally viable lineup on this two-gamer. We have Derrick Henry against a Pittsburgh stack, which we can utilize based on the stack finder. We don't mind going with Pittsburgh stacks here. We have Joe Mixon with Houston Texans defense. We bring that back with Vlad McConkey. We have Dalton Schultz filled in with the flex, and we have Rashad Bateman as underpriced. This is a totally viable lineup. We can also, we just want to say fuck it and optimize a lineup here. Let's see what the optimal is. Lamar Jackson, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, Nico Collins. So this one projects for 119. Remember the projection that we had on this one down here was something like 112. That's totally fine. Man, I'm dying. I'm going to have to cut the stream here pretty soon. Anyway, pretty good. Let's see. What's good, James? How you doing? I'm sick, so I'm dying a little bit. But even though I'm dying, I would still rather do a stream than write about it. Saturday only parlay of Andrews and McConkey anytime TDs. I'll take that. I think that's fine. Charger stacks. Yeah, I think that if you think Chargers are going to win, it's going to be through Vlad McConkey, probably. All right. I got like 5 minutes left to talk a little bit more about this. Let's go through the contest sims. So let's load in secondary slate, reset the sim, and contest. If you guys have any questions, ask them now. I'm going to end the stream in about 4 minutes because I can barely talk anymore. All right, let's see what Sims say. So average spent is 49,000. It's probably where you want to aim for. Projection is 110. Ownership about 350. Sure, good, cool. Contest sims are very heavy on Lamar Jackson. I think that he's in the winning lineup 72% of the time. The other ones that show up are Justin Herbert and CJ Stroud. Models just by far like Lamar Jackson. From a running back standpoint, models like Jalen Warren, I can get behind that. 22% exposure rate. Let's see what the highest exposure rates are. Joe Mixon. Oh, this is okay. Highest exposure rates, Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry. So again, we can kind of have this conversation about Derrick Henry or Lamar Jackson. I think that's the most important point on the slate. And then J.K. Dobbins and Jalen Warren. So the contest sims like Jalen Warren at 10% owned. I think that he's a positive leverage play. For wide receivers, highest exposure is Ladd McConkey and then Nico Collins. Quentin Johnson projected ownership is very, very high. Contest sims think that he's overowned, but also a pretty good play at 47%. Models like George Pickens the most as the highest leverage player. That doesn't surprise me. For tight ends, Mark Andrews, Will Dissly, Dalton Schultz. I mean, none of these things surprise me. And then, yeah, Pat Freiermuth is the highest edge. So contest sims agree. Pittsburgh is the highest edge overall. All right. Is going under on Lamar a good thing? If you play Derrick Henry. If you don't have Lamar Jackson, you should have Derrick Henry. That's what I'll say about that. Lamar's coming in at 60% today when the cards flip. Totally disagree with that. I don't think he does. I think that he very likely comes in. I think the most that he would come in is like 45% owned. I don't think that it's going to be higher than that. I think very likely he comes in somewhere between 35 and 45%. I think a lot of people are going to play Justin Herbert. I think some subset are going to play Schultz and Russell Wilson. I do think that Russell Wilson stacks are probably the best play on the slate. Shout out to Gordy. He's either going to take down the $20 with a Russell Wilson stack or lose all of his money. And that's the way that you should play, Duke Gamer. All right. Anyway, like I said, I'm dying. If you have not checked out Paydirt, you should check out Paydirt. You can get all the info that you just saw on this stream there. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them in Discord. You can join the Discord for free by going to members and going to the Discord. There's a link there. Yeah, anyway, if you have any questions, I hope that somebody ends up winning today. If it's not me, I hope that it's a Paydirt subscriber. If it's not a Paydirt subscriber, I hope they die. Anyway, have a good one, guys. I hope that everybody has a lot of fun, and I will talk to you guys on the other end. Peace.